The sermon that I had the pleasure of giving last week was on forgiveness. It wasn't a part of our normal study of Luke that we've been doing, but I felt that that was the sermon that I should preach. Now, with what happened this week, I thank God that was the message, because you've almost certainly seen it everywhere. Charlie Kirk shot down at the young age of 31 in front of his wife and his kids, no less. Of course, all murders are tragic. They take someone who's made in the image of God from us. They destroy that. But this one, it felt more personal. It felt closer to home. For one thing, it happened just 4 hours south of here. But for another thing, Charlie was someone who just wanted to speak to people who disagreed with him. That seems like it's one of the most fundamental American values. The ability to speak your mind and be heard. He was a man who was deeply and powerfully driven by his faith. He would go into gatherings of hundreds or thousands of people who disagreed with him, who didn't think like him, just to change their minds. Like anyone, I don't think he got everything right. But I was listening to him, and he was talking to Tucker Carlson. And he said something that stood out to me. He said, "How do we de-radicalize the country in the next couple of years?" That's my obsession, he said. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to create strong communities. He wanted to create strong families. And he wanted to create strong churches. He wanted to do that so that people wouldn't feel like they're the enemy of their neighbor. So that people would feel connected to and a part of a community. To create those connections and to create a sense of community, to try to change people's minds, he talked to people. And he listened. And he was effective. He changed people's minds. He showed them that he cared enough about them to give them a microphone. He helped people to learn about Christ, to learn about all the incredible blessings that we have in the church and in God's good way. Now that he's been murdered, I see a lot of people saying that he tried to talk it out and it didn't work. The time for discussion is over and now there's only war. I think we should be ready for anything. But I believe the reason Charlie was killed was not because he was ineffective, but because what he was doing was working. People were listening to Charlie. Community was being built. People were understanding that they were wrong, that they need to come back to Christ, that they need to come back to the gospel. Lies cannot withstand the truth. We believe that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. We can be killed for what we believe because even in death, we as Christians are victorious. Even when a righteous man is cut down in the prime of his life, the suffering of the present life and the life that he might have lived that was cut short is nothing in comparison to the glory he will have at the resurrection of the just. This should be a moment we can point back to in the history of our nation, September 10th, 2025, and say, this was a turning point. Not the moment that we look back and say, it was when the conversation broke down. Not when we look back and say, this was when our side began to hate. Not when we look back and say, this was the start of the Second Civil War. No, we should look back at this moment as the moment the sleeping giant of the American church woke up to the fact that we still have a nation full of lost and evil people. A nation full of people who need truth speakers. A nation full of people who need to see that we do not value our lives as much as we value their souls. Is that what you and I are going to choose as the church of Jesus Christ. It's easy to hate. It's natural to take revenge, especially against those people who so rightfully deserve it. But last week, we read that when Jesus was on the cross, the very first words Luke records are, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." And I guarantee you, those words mean more to me now than they did then. Pray for your enemies and do good to those who persecute you. It hits a little different when they're shooting at you. I don't know what comes next, but I feel we're close to a change. Something is coming, and we as Christians need to wake up and boldly, courageously commit to doing what needs to be done.